Hello everyone and welcome to the 16th episode of my GTA Online Racing series, and before we get into the main topic of conversation on this video, I just want to say that I have tested the Albany Roosevelt from the DLC pack and it's not very quick. It's 7 seconds a lap slower than the Z-Type. I've updated the Sports Classics video to include the time that it got, and it got a 1 minute 10, so that's about the same as a blister. But even the Stinger, which was 4th in that class, got a 1 minute 7, I think. So, you know, it's way off the pace, and it's certainly not one that you want to use for racing. But obviously, it's a good car just to have your friends or your crew run around in and things like that. So yeah, I have tested it. I've updated all the video and everything. But yeah, it's nowhere near the Z-Type for the Sports Classics category. So what I'm mainly going to be doing in this video is exploring the different characteristics of every car and all of the hidden values that you don't really see. What you're going to see on the screen are 4 different races. There's Jump or Die, which is the first. This is the first time I've ever raced this, and it's the only time I've ever raced this. So yeah, and the second one after that is a race on the Commute. Now I was host for that lobby, and everyone just voted for the Commute. So naturally, because I hate the track, I decided to put it on rain and, you know, motorbikes and traffic on and things like that. So it was a good race from my perspective, but I made people pay for choosing the Commute essentially. And the third race is a really good race, really close race. It did get a bit of a pain at the end because I got hit off, and you know it wasn't a very clean race on the last lap. But I did get a very quick lap time with the Entity around cutting corners on that third race, so keep an eye out for that, especially I think it's the third lap I get that. And then the final race, because we're just talking about quick laps, is a motorbike race on Dipping In. I get a very quick lap time there as well. I think it puts it into the top 20, which was probably the top 10 for non-glitched times on Dipping In. And over 2 laps I think I'm in the top 20 as well for non-glitched times. So yeah, just a few background races there that you should enjoy as we go through. So what am I on about here when I'm talking about the different characteristics of the cars and exploring that a bit more? Well, back in episode 5 I think it was, which was the fastest cars discussion video, which I'd made after I'd done all of the testing of all of the cars and put up all those videos. I'd made the fastest cars discussion video, and in that I mention a spreadsheet that includes all of the different handling characteristics of all the cars, all of the hidden stats that you don't normally see, and I'm going to be using that as a basis for this video. If you want to have a look at that, then I'm going to put the link in the description below, so all you have to do is click that link and you'll see the spreadsheet that I'm using for this video as well, and it includes a hell of a lot of information and all sorts of things that you don't see in terms of the characteristics of the cars. Now you may already have seen this because I have mentioned it quite a few times, but if you haven't, I'm going to explain in more detail what a lot of those things mean. And really, this is why the testing that I've done is the only real way to get a good idea of what a car can do, what a car is capable of. Because there's all these different things that go towards a car's performance that change how a car drives over and above just having the highest top speed or having good acceleration out of a corner. There's a lot more to it than that, and that's why the testing that I've done, I feel, is the best way to really nail down how good a car is. So let's start with one of the easiest ones to understand, because there's a lot here, and that's the maximum velocity. So obviously the highest speed that a car can go, and this is directly shown in the stats on the lobby screen. So for the sports class category, the maximum velocity of the fastest car, which is the Carbonizer, is 158 miles per hour. The highest velocity, the fastest speed, the highest top speed of the Serrano and the 9F are 155 miles an hour, so there's only a 3 mile per hour difference there. However, it isn't a fact that you're going to reach that top speed all of the time, because if you notice on the first line, there's also a drag coefficient. Now that drag coefficient basically means how much air resistance affects the car. So the lower the drag coefficient, the more streamlined a car is, and the better it is for reaching a higher top speed. So the Carbonizer can get to a theoretical maximum top speed 3 miles per hour faster than the Serrano, but its drag coefficient is 10.5, whereas the Serrano's is 9.1. That means that realistically I mean, the Serrano will probably go faster than the Carbonizere in a straight line, because it has that difference in drag coefficient, and the theoretical maximum of the car is so small in terms of a difference. Now, that theoretical max velocity probably isn't reached in most instances. It's likely that a slipstream in a racing situation is the only thing that allows the car to reach that absolute maximum velocity that's reported there. So that shows that the top speed stat that you see in lobbies isn't even important. You know, it doesn't affect anything. You rarely get to that top speed, and it's the drag and the weight and things like that that affect the speed that you actually go around sort of slipstreaming and things like that. So yeah, as you can see, I mean, if you sort them all by maximum velocity, the top, I don't know, I think that's the top 15 sports cars are all separated by 10 miles per hour. So, you know, there's barely any difference there. And when you look at sort of a drag coefficient, you're looking at the Corvette is one of the best for that. The Elegy has a 9.5, which is fairly standard for that sort of class. The highest ones in terms of drag are the Banshee and the Carbonizere, which are both 10.5, which is quite a lot. And weight plays a bit of a factor as well, so if you sort them by mass, you can see that the Banshee, the 9F, the Comet, the Corvette are some of the lightest cars, and the Elegy, the Carbonizere, the Serrano are some of the heaviest. So, you know, there's a few different things going on there, that it's not just the power that the car has and the drag that it might create and the maximum velocity, it's also the weight of the car that will affect how it drives around corners, how quick it can actually go. Obviously a lighter car is going to be very easy to get to those higher speeds and get a quick lap time, but it's also going to be easier to lose control of it as well. And that's something that you see with the 9F. The 9F is, what, 400 kilograms lighter than the Elegy. It's got less traction, but because it's lighter, it can get to those similar lap times. You know, it's not on the Elegy. Obviously, the Elegy is in a class of its own, but it can get a similar, like a close lap time to it, even though it doesn't have the same level of traction, and that's because it's light. So all of these things all work together to give the true performance of a car. So if I switch attention to supercars now, and we will delve a little bit deeper into supercars with a few extra things, but just to cover what we've covered with the sports cars, the difference in maximum velocity for the Entity and the Adder is only 5 miles per hour. So the Adder can only go 5 miles per hour faster than the Entity at the highest top speed. It does have less drag, the Adder, so it can reach those speeds a lot easier, but the Entity is 300 kilograms lighter, so you know the difference there and the balance is it's very similar. You know, the Entity is lighter, so it can reach those things easier, but it does have more drag. So you know, the difference there isn't as pronounced as what you might think. It's not just a case of the Adder can go 5 miles per hour faster than the Entity, and it will at all times. The chances are both of those cars aren't going to reach their maximum speeds anyway, unless under slipstreaming circumstances. So yeah, that's just one thing to think about. But we've also got traction statistics. So there's a traction max stat and a traction min. So this is the highest level of traction that a car has when everything's totally planted, and the min stat is when sort of you lose a bit of traction, sort of you're turning a bit too much, when you're on the very limit of losing the car. And the Entity has a 2.75 stat for traction max and a 2.6 stat for traction min, so it's very, very good at traction all of the time. You know, even if you're on the very edge, it's still got good traction. The Adder, on the other hand, its maximum traction stat is only 2.5, so it's got 0.1 less of the traction capabilities of it than the minimum that an Entity can have. So the Entity's minimum traction at the very limit of when it's about to spin out is still higher than the Adder's maximum traction. So that's why you tend to see that the Entity can go much faster around corners, because it is that much lighter. It does have that much more traction available to it. So that's basically what I'm going to stop at now. I've explained a few of the different things, but there are a hell of a lot more, and I would urge you to click the link in the description, have a look at the spreadsheet, and see all of these different things that go towards a car's performance. You know, there's things like suspension, anti-roll bar things, you know, clutch speeds, how quickly they change gears, brake bias, brake force, you know, all sorts of different things that go towards a car's performance above and beyond just how quick it can accelerate, how quick it can brake. You know, there's so many different aspects that determine how a car handles around any given track that it's impossible to just look at one of them, or even just look at a number of them and figure out which is the best car to use. You can't do that by just using statistics. It's impossible. You can use the statistics to help you understand why you get the results that you do, but they can't give you the full story. The only way you can know for sure which cars are the best for you is to try them out and test them like I've done, because it's the only way that all of those things come together and allow you to see how a car is actually used properly. So yeah, basically I'm going to stop it there, but there is one main thing that I haven't looked at, and that is drivetrains. So front wheel drive, rear wheel drive, all wheel drive, and that's going to be the topic of the next video, because it is quite an interesting one, I think, and it's quite an interesting separator of the cars as well. So yeah, that's going to be the topic of the next one. But if you want to have a look, you know, explore all of these different things, explore all of these different aspects of the cars, click the link in the description and you'll be taken to the spreadsheet, and there's all sorts of things you can do in terms of sorting through different classes and stuff like that. So I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. I hope it's given you a bit more of an insight into, you know, what goes towards a car's performance. If you did enjoy it, be sure to give it a like. Thanks a lot for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next time.